Thanks for checking out the Brad and John Show podcast. This segment of the show is brought to you by John Combest's book, Stalking, Harassment, Internet Trolling, A Guide to Recovering and Rebuilding After Online Attacks. It's a great reference if you've ever been the unfortunate target of a social media attack. It's available on Amazon. Just search John Combest. That's C-O-M-B-E-S-T, John Combest, and the book will show up in your search results. Now it's time for another segment of the Brad and John Show. Can you handle it?
Hey, it's me, Egbert. E-G-G-B-U-R-T. Check out my website at egbert.com. Now it's back to those two dudes who told me they would bring in big ratings. They better are their history. Here are Brad and John.
Hey, and here we are. It is bjshow.co. Did I get that right, John?
You know what? We're on a 3-day streak now.
Man, I'll tell you what. I can't even get the stupid name of the show right. Okay, bjshow.com. I'm Brad. He's John.
No, bjshow.co.
Oh, did I say it again? bjshow.co. Here I'm patting myself in the back and I blow it again. He is John Combest, C-O-M-B-E-S-T. You can check out his website, johncombest.com, just like it sounds, and you will find everything you want to know about the state. Now, once again, when you go there, don't expect all sorts of crazy-looking graphics and flash videos and stuff like that.
No bells or whistles,
right?
Brad.
It's web -1, right?
Web -1.0. Thank you.
Right, Web -1.0. Okay, here we go again. Francis Howell. It seems like we talk about Francis Howell. Supposedly, there's a walkout being scheduled for 11:30 this morning. Do you know about this?
Nice. Well, there's a meeting tonight. You know that, Brad?
Yeah, I know. And this, once again, maybe I'm biased on this. All 4 of my kids went to Francis Howell School District. All 3 of them graduated. My oldest one didn't. And, I think this is some board members got in there who are, and unfortunately, I know a couple of them. And shall we say at least one of them is very inflexible. They have their ideas, and it's sort of like my way or the highway kind of philosophy. You know what I mean? You do things my way, and I think what's happened is they have fallen into the trap that they have made themselves look like a bunch of white racists that we hate black kids, right? You know what I'm saying? Let's be honest. And the whole crazy thing about it is, I've said it before, let's be honest, there aren't that many black kids in the Francis Howell School District.
Right, I think 8% of the students' population is black.
It's not very many, okay?
Mm-hmm.
But
1 out of 12, let's say.
Right, yeah. But yet, if you would go into the Francis Howell School District and do, like, let's say, German, I would be willing to bet you there are more than 10% of the kids in Francis Howell School District have German heritage. And go through a lot of the Western European countries. Italian, I know there's a lot of Italian there. I mean, once again, it's to the point where it's like, okay, and I guess, and I always get in trouble for this when I hear people say, well, we need to teach black history. And I will say, what about white history? And the response on that is always, well, that's what's being taught right now. Here's the crazy thing about that is, I'm going to get in trouble for saying this. Have you ever seen the musical Hamilton?
I haven't, but I'm familiar with it.
Okay, do you know who almost all the characters are, what race they are?
Yeah, they're black, which is historically inaccurate.
Exactly. So now, let's flip that.
But hey, listen, it makes people feel good, though, Brad.
Yeah, well, let's do the Tony Colombo flip test on that, and let's say it's a story about slaves in the Deep South in the early 1800s. And
you remake the movie Glory, but instead of a black infantry group, you make them all white.
Or the slaves are all white. And people go like, the black people go, whoa, hold on a minute now. That's not right. You got white people portrayed as slaves. But yet when we take a musical, it's about our founding fathers, and once again, you think we have disagreements here in the United States now in the government. Nobody's, doing pistols at 20 paces. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean, it's calmed down quite a bit because they used to have duels and people were shot and killed, stuff like that. I don't. And to the point where remember there was for a while, the big news was the guy who did the voices on, what was the show?
Family Guy.
And the guy who
did the voice of Cleveland, and he was a white guy. And the disappointing thing, sorry to interrupt your story, Brad, but the disappointing thing is the guy came out and apologize.
Well, but the same
now,
thing.
what
with,
are you apologizing?
The same thing with Hank Azaria, because he did the voice of Apu on The Simpsons. Apu being the
Indian guy,
the Indian guy who runs the Quickie Mart. I'm going like, okay, that's what's called acting.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, once again,
well, and let's use a line from Dana Lash. She says, "Never bow a knee to the rage mob." So if you were hired to be a voice actor, to do a black character, do an Indian character or whatever, and you do your job, and years later people are like, I can't believe you portrayed someone who was outside of your race, and you apologize? Like, what kind of a man apologizes for something like that?
the guy from U City.
The guy from U City.
What's his name again?
Maybe the actor who did the Family Guy voice, maybe he was up late caring for his child.
What's his name again? Brandon? What was it? What'd you say?
Brian Williams.
Brian Williams. Well, you know
Not
what?
to be confused with other Brian Williams.
I was going to say he got done doing the news thing, and they
he did.
They didn't renew.
And you know what? He might choose to run against Corey Bush. You never know.
They didn't renew his contract. After they bumped him from NBC.
Hey, one more thing about Francis Howell. The superintendent sent out a note on. Let's see, what date is this? He sent out a note 2 days ago that just has a beautiful quote, and it says, this is from the school board. Sorry, not from the superintendent. We'd like to invite all speakers and audience members to model, highlighted word, civility and respect during board meetings. May we all listen to the viewpoints of others, even if we don't agree, and model the behavior we expect of our children.
See, okay, here, if this is me, the weird contrarian kind of dude, okay?
Mm-hmm.
If I was the superintendent of Francis Howell School Districts and I knew there was going to be a walkout at 11:30 today, you know what I'd do?
Schedule a test for 11:45.
Oh, no, just the opposite.
That's what I would do.
I would call up all the area Chick-fil-A's and I would say, I want 10,000 chicken strips. I want 5,000 orders of those great tasting waffle fries, and I want 5,000 milkshakes, and I want it delivered at 11:45. And anybody who's in the building gets to eat for free.
They get them.
Right.
My favorite thing about walkouts is, and you see this anytime there's a gun violence incident, and some woman in comfortable shoes from Moms Demand Action, which is a great name, by the way. Like, think of how many suburban women are really in need of a little bit of action. You know what I mean, Brad?
John, I have to tell you something. You have a thing against women in comfortable shoes because you keep bringing that up.
I do. Like, here's the thing: put on a pair of heels.
Oh, so you're saying they should put on their stilettos and then they're real women, but if they show up in their flats, they're not to be taken serious?
A woman a good 15 years ago, who I love and respect, said, "Never trust a woman in flats." If you're walking around the Missouri Capitol and you're wearing comfortable shoes, are you really committed to your clients?
See how disingenuous that is, because let's use the male equivalent of that. Mm-hmm. See, the thing that I get is, I don't know if you noticed this or not. I mean, things tick me off about certain things. I think it's called Wolf and Shepherd. It's a brand, a Shepherd and Wolf or something like that.
I haven't heard of it.
You're there in front of your computer. Look that up real quick.
Okay.
And what they did was they came out with the dress shoe with the white sole, okay?
Oh, yeah. Which is not a dress shoe.
Well, and exactly. Thank you very much. It's like, to me,
Dress
it's like...
shoe at all.
It's like wearing a tuxedo and wearing Chuck Taylors.
Wolf and Shepherd is the name of it. You're correct,
Wolf
Brad.
and Shepherd. Okay. To me, it's like wearing a tuxedo and Chuck Taylors. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
it
exactly.
just doesn't work. If you're going to wear the tuxedo, wear the nice patent leather shoes and the whole bit. And once again, it's to the point where I'd see that and I go like, okay, I think that looks goofy as hell. And yet,
our friend, I'm not sure if you're if you're hip to Greg Keller. You know Greg Keller?
I don't know Greg Keller.
Okay, so I've known Greg for 20 plus years, a top Republican mastermind in the state of Missouri. He has a quote here. I pulled it up. You know how sometimes you read social media posts and they stick in your brain?
Right.
He said if the Missouri legislature is going to enforce sex-specific dress codes, which was a big debate last year, it should prohibit men from wearing comfort shoes, especially the ones with white soles.
See, that's my guy right there.
Exactly. Once again, Greg is right about sartorial statements.
Right. I mean,
white dress. And by the way, I have a pair of really nice Cole Haan dress shoes that I got many years ago. and I wear them with jeans. They are not dress shoes. I would not put them on if we go down and sit across from the folks at Simply Bella, Brad, in beautiful Lake St. Louis. And, we're coming up on Valentine's Day. Folks should consider that as a gift for the woman or women in their lives. But I would not wear a pair of white-soled shoes with a pair of dress pants.
Well, now I get made fun of because what do I wear all the time? I wear cowboy boots. I've worn cowboy. I wear either cowboy boots. Matter of fact, I only have one pair of regular shoes, and it's not really shoes. It's my gym shoes. It's like when I go work out or stuff like that. They're like cross trainers. They're not like running shoes. You know what I mean? They're like, you know what I'm saying. And I've got cowboy boots, and I've got combat boots, and that's all I have. And
why don't I thought that after you and Shelley met with Josh Hawley, you started wearing pirate shoes.
Oh God, that's so funny. I mean, when we met him,
you're known as a Josh Hawley copycat. You wear those Conway Twitty tight-fitting jeans and pirate shoes.
Well, you know what I'm talking about with pirate shoes? You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, I know. Hey, I have a pair of boots that have monk straps on them.
Well, but these are the pirate shoes. They look like they're elongated and they have like a square toe,
like a pointy toe.
No, they have a square toe on them, and they have like a buckle on them. And he's wearing his tight jeans, and I'm going like, okay, I don't know about this. We met him at a we purposely went to. He was speaking at a. This is when he was running for Senate, but of course. The question I wanted to ask him was, I couldn't get in front of him, but my question I wanted to ask him was, Josh, when you got elected to Attorney General, which you are right now, you said that if you were, that you would never use that job as a stepping stone to a higher position. Aren't you using the job of Attorney General as a stepping stone to a higher position? But of course, nobody will ever ask that question. Okay.
You know what? You know how you could have got that attention, though, Brad. See, here's what, and you and I weren't even pals back then. We didn't know each other. I would have recommended that you carried a ladder, and then you climbed up on a ladder and you shouted the question from a ladder, and then it would have been impossible for anyone to ignore you.
So I could just take a ladder with me wherever I go?
Well, when you were meeting with Josh Hawley, absolutely.
Okay.
I think he'd appreciate the gimmick. How do we get on this? We were talking about Francis Howell.
Yes, I don't know. Okay, change the subject. Okay. I have a solution to, and you know what's sort of interesting about this is, there's a phrase, those who do not learn history are bound to repeat it, right?
Correct.
Okay. I say what's happened to the United States is we have failed to learn history. We became a independent country through the Revolutionary War. And if you know your Revolutionary War history, the British at the time, the redcoats were dressed in this red, once again, not very good camouflage. They were dressed in red coats with white, like, fluffy shirts and stuff like that.
Very regal.
Right.
Very regal.
And they had the fancy schmancy hats. And they walked into battle in a line, okay? And us at the time, I don't know if you could consider us Americans. We were colonists, I guess, at the time. Maybe we were Americans. I don't know what they consider themselves. Colonists, I think.
Insurrectionists, Brad.
Well, they were, yeah. And what did we do? We hid behind rocks and we climbed up in trees and we took sniper shots at the guys. And while they were out in the open in their line, we were picking them off behind trees, behind rocks,
sitting ducks.
Right. And that's how we won the war. Okay. So 200 plus years later, things have gone backwards, where we are the ones that dress in the uniforms and we show up and we have honor and we say this is how we're going to go into battle. And we got guys who are taking out our troops, who are blowing us up with IEDs, and they're shooting us with
guerrilla style
warfare. And if you go back to the ultimate example of what I call, it's not me, but it's the term, it's called asymmetrical warfare. You go back to asymmetrical warfare, it's the USS Cole, where two dudes in a rubber dinghy packed with explosives in, what was that? I think, weren't they in Yemen, or where were they? They were in a bay, in a harbor somewhere. Two dudes in a rubber dinghy that probably cost, I don't know, a couple $1,000, with a Mercury outboard engine that probably cost, $1,000.
It was Yemen. I just looked it up.
Yemen, okay. And a bunch of explosives, and they drove their little dinghy right up against the USS Cole, and they blew themselves up and blew a hole in the side of the USS Cole, almost sunk the boat. A $1 billion naval vessel sunk by two dudes in a dinghy with an outboard engine and a bunch of explosives, okay? So here's where I say, here's what we should do, okay? First off, we should go to all the prisons. There's this whole deal with, we shouldn't have jails, okay? The Army should go to all the jails and say, we are going to commute your sentence, but you have to serve a year in our special forces and not the Navy SEALs. We're going to create a new special forces. Remember the movie The Dirty Dozen?
Yeah, and I know what you're getting at, and it's not cannon fodder, but you're giving them quite a deal. Let's make a deal with the prisoners.
Right.
And what happens if they're successful, Brad?
They get to come back to the United States. If they're not successful, they get killed. Simple
Absolutely.
as that.
There you go.
Right. It's either do or die.
You could either be cannon fodder or you could be a free man.
And then if you listen to the reports of the people streaming across the border, they now say that there are very, very, very few families, and most of the people streaming across the border, this is not me making this up, they are what they term single military-aged men. Military-aged men in the United States is 18 to 35. That is the age group that you can't be younger than 18. Well, you can if your parents, I think you can be 17 if your parents sign off. But you can't be over 35 unless you're Hunter Biden, but that's a whole other story. But so same thing, grab the guys at the border and say, okay, welcome to America. Here's what you have to do to become an American citizen. You have to serve in our United States Army for 4 years. You have to, and we're going to take you, the immigrants, we're going to send you to the nastiest places in the country. We're going to tell you, hey, go down with the Israeli defense guys in the tunnels and find those Hamas guys and kill them.
Root them out. And, Brad, I'm 100% on board with this. And the other pitch to these folks that you're recruiting into the military or suggesting they could get their freedom for it is think of all the DEI training they could get under the Biden administration military.
Well, if you go back in history, and there's some books about this, there were people in the mafia that were recruited by the United States government that did things for the U.S. government because – what is the mafia good at? They're good at
contracts. Yep.
Right.
They could execute on a contract. They could find somebody and root them out.
Rubbing people out.
Do more than break some kneecaps.
Right. Creating some havoc. Going into places that other people would be afraid to go into, and TCB, as Elvis would say, right?
Yeah. Or Bob Seger. Didn't Bob Seger sing that song too?
Yeah, TCB. No, that was taking care of business. See, you're too young. That's a BTO, Bachman Turner Overdrive. Taking care of business. Oh, that's who it was.
Okay.
BTO with TCB. Okay. Hey, that's the DJ me. Hey, here's BTO with TCB. Yes, taking care of business right here on 104.5. Yeah, we have 104.5. Right. Okay. Or I could be a puker. You know what a puker is? Puker talks like that. That's a puker. Hey, it's John Combest and Brad. We're on the air right now, and we're moving and grooving, and we're hoping you're having a great time listening to us. That's